Hi everyone. As Jerry mentioned, I'm Joe Keshmiri. About 5 years ago, I founded a new company called Institute for Global Innovation. The purpose of our company was, in the United States, we're veering away from innovation, and we are now ranked number 6 on the global scale. Great Britain has gone from number 10 to number 2, and basically most Scandinavian countries are in the top 5. So we decided, why don't we make it a mission to bring innovation to different companies and different cultures. Let's see. So that's our banner. Our topic today is from IQ to EQ and now XQ. Your company's success may depend on it. The good news is, in the next 30 years, our GDP, global GDP, is projected to go from 60 trillion to 200 trillion, which is an amazing amount of growth and opportunity for all of us. The not so good news is, according to Gallup, 70% of our employees are disengaged in the US. 70% of all strategies fail in business. And on a global scale, 87% of employees are disengaged. So if our economy is growing very quickly in the next 25 years, 30 years, when the employees are not engaged, the loss currently is $500 billion a year in productivity for the US companies. Now, if you look at the total employees in the United States, we have 138 million people which are non-governmental and non-farm. In California, we have 16 million people. The loss of productivity for us is greater because all the employees combined make $7.4 trillion in payroll money. And in California, we earn $1 trillion. So if you notice that proportionately, our losses are greater than everybody else's. So the sooner we get our people engaged, the better it's going to be. All this growth will present a couple of issues for us. Number one is human-based challenges, but tremendous opportunities. I don't know how many of you have a strategy for the next 30 years, but it looks great if we can get our human capital under control. That there have been, let me go back in here. There's been a lot of talk about big data, machine learning, predictive people analytics. Some of that is working great, but some of it is not working great. To give you an example, Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus, two of the great golfers ever, they have two completely different profiles. So if the machine data or big data was trying to analyze who's a good fit, they would miss one or the other. And that's why the big data is not really working as well as it should. The IQ was the first testing that was ever done in 1905. And basically, it measures your ability to learn. And it was around for 50 years. However, what they found in the 1960s, that people with average IQ were outperforming people with high IQs. So they started adding personality to it. So in the 1960s, it was IQ plus personality. In 1970s, they said, well, maybe it's not a good predictor for success, so why don't we add competency as well? So that was the norm until 1995, where emotional intelligence became one of the great factors of prediction for success in all employees. EQ and IQ are quite different. EQ is basically your awareness of yourself and others and how the emotions, what role emotions play in somebody's daily life. Dr. Travis Bradberry, author of Emotional Intelligence 2.0, discovered that you have emotional brain and you have rational brain. The emotional brain takes information 300 times faster than your rational brain. All the information is received on your limbic system, the back, on the top of your spine, the back of your head, and then it's transferred down over to your frontal lobe, which then is processed and sent to your brain for final processing. The problem is 95% of all decisions, all reactions and actions are emotional. And if we don't get a hold of our emotions, if we can't process them, then we don't have as big of a productivity in our workforce. Now, what is emotional intelligence? What are the dimensions of emotional intelligence? Basically, it's divided into two categories. One is intrapersonal emotional intelligence. One is interpersonal relationships. Intra is your relationship with yourself, which starts with self-awareness, self-regulation, and motivation. Motivation is basically what makes you go beyond money and recognition. On the interpersonal emotional intelligence, you have empathy and you have social skills. And what they do is after you take an assessment, it's all calculated and it gives you a total IQ score. Now, again, the research shows that IQ doesn't change. By the time you're 15 or 16, most of your IQ has already been established. And just like IQ, personality also doesn't change over a lifetime. The only factor that's constantly changing and that can improve is your emotional intelligence. In fact, EQ is the single most important predictor of success in all people. People with high EQ, people who score high in EQ, get higher pays, and they are much more successful than people that score lower on EQ. Leaders with high EQ always are successful because they can work with all kinds of people. They can control their emotions. Give you an example, for example, look at, I don't want to get into politics, but if you look at Donald Trump and if you look at Hillary Clinton, both of them have very high IQ. Both of them are very, very intelligent. Both of them have high dominance personality. But both lack some sorts of EQ to a degree where you either hate them or you love them. By contrast, if you remember Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton, both had high emotional intelligence. So that's how they could relate to people. That's how they could get things done, bring people consensus together and get processes moving. In fact, EQ is really the most important part of a leader's success. Now, usually when we look at emotional intelligence scores, it's kind of a bell curve. You have 16% that have basically no EQ, 16% that have supremely high EQ, and the rest, 68%, fall in the middle. But in a group like this, I almost can guarantee you, if we did a test on this group, because you're all experienced and successful leaders, you're probably all going to score 70% or higher. It's almost like you can't have low EQ and be successful. Bradbury also defines personality as a third essential part of a person's makeup or style. Like EQ, personality does not change, as we talked about. Now, the IQ, EQ, and personality cover different grounds, but they're all important in identifying who you want to hire, who you want to promote, and who you want to associate with, and even who you want to do business with. We're at I4GI, we've been building a model. How do we make sure that a company is successful from the inside out? And that all starts from self-awareness. We find that individuals who are self-aware can basically become aware of others. And then so we build a model, not this one. So we build a model from the grounds up that self-awareness, team, group, and corporate awareness creates a very harmonious place to work in, and it gets people engaged. In June of this year, Time magazine published an article called "How High is Your XQ? Your future may depend on it." And basically, because of all the testing that's being done. And how many of you do any testing for your employees? Okay, quite a bit. But nobody has a standard. There's no name for it. So Time just loosely called it XQ, or personality quotient. And depending upon what system you use, basically you can decide, I'm going to hire people based on this or not. It's obvious that algorithms themselves, they cannot predict your future success. So there has to be a combination of all these combined. Which brings us to the next level, which is your EPO. If we believe that 70%, how many of you believe 70% of your employees are disengaged?
Nobody.
Nobody. I told you, this is an amazing team. Okay? Okay. Disengagement means emotional contract is broken. There's no psychological contract, which means people come to work and collect a paycheck. They clock in at 7:59 and clock out at 4:59. There's no engagement. There's no wanting to do things beyond their duties. Basically, the EPO starts from a learning culture. Learning culture fosters innovation, creativity, and doing things because you want to do it, not because you're told to do it. And this is that self-awareness we were talking about. Now, in conclusion, this is actually a 2-day seminar, but we left you some material on your table to read. Basically, the bottom line is, if you're planning on surviving, thriving, and being prosperous in the next 30 years, a lot of it greatly depends on your XQ measures. Okay, XQ means a triangulation takes place where you measure emotional intelligence, IQ, and maybe DNA, maybe other aspects of your employees. Basically, human capital is the one that's going to make or break your companies in the next coming 30 years. If you don't have a systematic approach to hiring, promoting, training, you're probably going to miss some of that $140 trillion opportunity in the next coming years. So that's it. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.